This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Heather Sells. Stocks surged at the opening bell this morning, and they have continued on an upbeat note today. There is good news about the rising price of oil, the Federal Reserve Chairman's recent comments about the economy, and also this morning, promising results in the development of a coronavirus vaccine. The American pharmaceutical company Moderna announced today the outcome of its phase 1 trials on humans. In March, it injected 8 healthy people with the vaccine, and it proved to be effective at preventing the virus. The vaccine is now in phase 2, which means it will be tested on 600 people. And if that goes well, it will enter phase 3, at which time it will be injected into thousands of people. And CBN's medical reporter Lori Johnson joins us now with more on this development. Lori, thanks for joining us. So it's nice to have something promising to talk about.
Absolutely.
Right, but it was just 8 people. So how much stock can we take in this?
That's right. Everyone's like, what? Only 8 people? But this is a safety precaution because when you're testing a vaccine, there are 2 very important things that you look at. Number 1, is it safe? And number 2, is it effective? Does it even work preventing against the virus? So they only gave it to 8 people in case it might not be safe. And they were closely monitoring those 8 people. They're volunteers, very brave volunteers. Yeah. Closely monitoring them to see if they had any bad side effects, and luckily they didn't. And then regarding how well it worked, a lot of people think maybe they give the coronavirus to these people. No, they take their blood and they give their blood and and expose their blood to actual human cells that are then infected with the virus. Because remember, when you are exposed to this virus, you create antibodies. And so that's the hope with the vaccine, is that it causes your body to create antibodies. And that is exactly what happened. They gave the blood and the antibodies in a lab to human cells, and those antibodies did in fact prevent the coronavirus from replicating in those human cells. So that's very exciting.
Yes, and just timeline-wise, what are we looking at? How long before, this might be proven effective for the population if, we need to go to larger numbers of people now?
Absolutely. That's what everybody's looking for, because so many people have said since day one that we're really not going to get back to the way we were before, back to normal, until we have a vaccine. So everyone's looking at that date. When might it be? And it looks like it could be as early as this fall, because if you think about approximately 8 weeks per phase. So phase 1 started in March. Now it's May. It's been 8 weeks. Now phase 2 with the 600 people might be about another 8 weeks. And so in July, phase 3 with the thousands of people being tested, that might be another 8 weeks. So now we're looking at possibly as early as September, when phase 3 trials are finished. So phase 2 going on right now, instead of 8 people, we're looking at 600 people, half of them under age 55, half of them, Heather, over age 55. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens.
Okay, yeah, well, I know we're all rooting for a fast timeline. Right. And then what happens to the other vaccines that are being developed?
Right, there are about 70 pharmaceutical companies that have developed vaccines and are in various stages of testing. And so these folks are still going to keep right on testing, because number 1, we don't know how the Moderna vaccine is going to turn out. Is it going to work? There's still a long way to go. But also these other vaccines, there may be a need for more than one vaccine. We'll wait and see about that. And then there's this whole race going on between certain countries, especially the United States and China, because presumably whichever country comes up with the vaccine first, their citizens are going to get first right of refusal. So in the United States, we're looking at about possibly, if all things go well, about 100 million doses by the end of this year. So far, it looks like with the Moderna vaccine, folks are going to need 2 doses, a shot and then a booster, as we call it, a little bit later, to really get that immune response that we want. So that's 100 million by the end of this year, and then 500 million next year. So we have about 330 million people in the United States. So even at first, it's probably going to be on the priority basis this year. Who gets the vaccine first? Healthcare workers and nursing home residents, most likely.
All right. Well, we're out of time, but I will say I have never been so excited about a shot. So.
Right.
Right. Thank you, Lori.
My pleasure.
All right. Well, as America slowly reboots, businesses are reopening and people are flocking to beaches and restaurants. Even NASCAR returned to TV. But what does this all mean for the crippled economy, especially if a second wave of the virus hits? Gary Lane has that story.
Most all states have reopened partially or will reopen businesses with social distancing restrictions this week. While economic recovery is still a long way off, many people around the country are enjoying a return to dining and some outdoor activities. Although many beaches remain closed on the west and east coasts, that didn't stop beachgoers from trying to cool off from summer-like heat. In Virginia Beach, the governor's Phase 1 restrictions allow people to only get exercise by walking along the boardwalk or beach. No sunbathing. People still staked out a section of sand and even set up beach umbrellas. Nearby, fishermen were happy to return to the sea.
I think it's a wonderful thing. I'm ready to get out and enjoy the Atlantic Ocean and hopefully catch some fish.
People practice social distancing at restaurants that were allowed to reopen on outdoor patios. Meanwhile, partial reopenings in New York City caused people to crowd into bars. That led to this warning from Mayor Bill de Blasio.
I'm not comfortable at all with people congregating outside bars. And if we have to shut places down, we will.
Restaurant owners say if the COVID-19 crisis lasts 6 months, their businesses have only a 15% chance of survival. NASCAR returned to television on Sunday, but there were no spectators allowed in the stands. And people at Shining Light Baptist Church in Monroe, North Carolina, attended indoor services after a federal court ruling lifted Governor Cooper's restrictions prohibiting them.
The judge agreed with us and recognized that we have a God-given right to assemble that's recognized in our United States Constitution, but also our North Carolina State Constitution.
And as states reopen for business, 8 states are seeing a rise in COVID-19 cases, including Texas, where more than 700 new cases were reported near Amarillo on Saturday, and many reportedly came from a meat packing plant. With testing central to restarting state economies, the push is on to boost testing nationwide. New York has done more than 1.4 million tests, and Governor Andrew Cuomo demonstrated just how easy taking a test can be.
That is the whole test. I'm not in pain. I'm not in discomfort.
Appearing on the CBS program 60 Minutes, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell says a long road to recovery is ahead for the U.S. economy.
This economy will recover. It may take a while. It may take a period of time. It could stretch through the end of next year. We really don't know.
The country is not going to see a second Great Depression, said the Fed chairman, but there's more that Congress can do to help businesses and American workers avoid bankruptcy.
Policies that help businesses avoid avoidable insolvencies and that do the same for individuals. Keep workers in their homes, keep them paying their bills, keep families solvent.
Gary Lane, CBN News.
A group of influential conservatives gathered recently to bring attention to Facebook, Google, and Twitter for censoring certain voices on their platforms. For example, Twitter recently banned leading black conservative Candace Owens for opposing Michigan's pandemic clampdown. Now, these media giants often target those downplaying the coronavirus threat and pushing to get America back to work. Paul Strand has more.
The prevailing criticism against these social media platforms is they appear to believe they have a corner on the truth.
So when you take issues like gender, like abortion, like climate change, like guns, there is on the left-hand side of the spectrum a position where there is truth and falsehood. Climate change is settled science. Gender is not man and woman.
This is really dangerous, what's going on. I think we all saw it during the pandemic, right? When they began censoring information.
Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton warns these internet overlords could grow to be unstoppable.
But some of these companies are as large as countries. And so it's quite the challenge when some of these companies have so much money, so much power.
Barons of industry that are controlling all of our communication.
Marjorie Dannenfelser's group works to put pro-life candidates in office, like placing ads during the 2018 midterms.
Our ads were taken down 13 times. And this was right in the run-up to the election.
When it is political, it is stridently anti-conservative, where conservatives feel and genuinely feel they're being targeted. Barack Obama wasn't targeted. Donald Trump has been targeted.
Senator Marsha Blackburn personally experienced that targeting.
We had a team at Google that referred to me as a terrorist because of my conservative values.
Senator Blackburn herself was targeted for wanting to talk about the right to life issue.
And it's very hard to have the marketplace of ideas if the government allows a handful of private industries to control everything and to censor whatever they wish.
Bozell says this could all be remedied if these internet titans would just follow the First Amendment. Freedom of speech.
The rule in the United States of America is let people speak.
Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
Coming up, the first named tropical storm of the season is making its way up the coast, and we will look ahead at what to expect as we move into hurricane season. But before we go to break, here's a look at what's trending on CBNNews.com.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug of war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline Friday night at 9:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
The North Carolina coast is preparing for high winds and surf. Tropical Storm Arthur, the first named storm of 2020, is arriving about 2 weeks before hurricane season officially starts on June 1st. It's now moving north-northeast with 45-mile-per-hour sustained winds. The storm is expected to pass over parts of North Carolina's Outer Banks later today before heading out to the Atlantic. And joining us now is Chief Meteorologist at weatherbell.com, Joe Bastardi. Joe, thanks for joining us. It looks like this storm is going to have minimal impact, but it is noteworthy. It's really kind of the first launching into the hurricane season of 2020.
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, and I'm not trying to be a wise guy, but it's bi-hatterous. And it was no worse than a nor'easter there. I believe they had wind gusts 35 miles an hour. One of the big problems I see, though, is that the U.S.-generated hurricane models did a horrible job with this. And, the European-generated model beat it 3 days away, beat hurricane models. They're supposed to be honed in on the track. Now, you say, well, why is that a problem, Joe? Because, well, we have a minor storm, but suppose we have a bigger storm developing in close, and that is the crux of the Weather Bell forecast. We put this out March 10th, said it was going to be a high-impact season, said the closest parallel in the last 5-6 years was 2017, and you're seeing a lot of the other forecasts that come out. Colorado State, for instance, Penn State with Dr. Michael Mann, and The big kahuna is coming out, NOAA, I believe, in a couple of days. We'll see what they say. They're mimicking what we put out early in the season. Now, we have methodology that we've been using here to try to give people a jump on such things. And so we are concerned that this is going to be a high-impact season. And folks, the storms that are going to be the toughest are the ones that are going to develop within 2-3 days of the coast. If you've looked over the last 30, 40 years in this modern-day age of global warming, for whatever's causing it, we notice that the big storms that come all the way across tend to weaken as they come to the coast. But it's the Michaels and the Harveys that are the real problem. By the way, in May of 1951, we had Hurricane Abel. And up until they reanalyzed it, that was a Category 3 hurricane. Now it's a Category 2 hurricane, which I don't understand what new information came in that, oh, we're going to change it from a 3 to a 2. But that's the strongest May hurricane on record. Here's another interesting fact.
Yeah, I'm going to break in for just a minute. When you talk about a high-impact season this year, what are we looking at exactly?
Well, like I said, a lot of storms that are going to be trying to threaten the United States, and the big danger is storms that develop relatively late. Those are the ones that are the real problems. And now we go back to the computer modeling. The toughest thing for a model to see is the embryonic stage of the storm and then the evolution of the storm after that, okay? When it's a big, powerful storm, the models do a great job, and it's basically just let's follow the models. But the thing that can cause the real problem, this is why we were out in front of Michael, out in front of Harvey, is these ones that are going to develop in areas at the last minute. So like I said, I just point back to 2017. I don't think it's as bad as 2017, but I think that's the closest analog to this coming up. And that opens up. Remember, the last 2 years, while the Bahamas got it, northern Bahamas got it with Dorian, those Caribbean islands that got hammered in 2017 have been essentially left alone. This year may be a different story.
All right. Well, we will definitely be keeping an eye on this, Joe. Thanks for your insights.
Thanks for having me.
Up next, why many Americans are searching for the truth about COVID-19, even as multiple media outlets cover it. We'll have that story next.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
Administering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to CBNNewsChannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News. Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
As the U.S. grapples with how to move forward in the age of the coronavirus, where to find the truth about what's really going on has been a question for many Americans. Our Mark Martin spoke with FaithWire.com's Trey Goins-Phillips about how the media's coverage has played a role.
Trey, you've written an op-ed about these pandemic times, truth, media, and communication. What are you seeing?
So I think there's just a lot of information flying at all of us at the same time, and it's hard to figure out what's the truth, what do we need to prioritize, what matters in this, how can we best digest all of the information coming at us. And I think a major concern is the goalposts that we've heard about that continue to move as we move forward in this pandemic and in addressing this issue. And I think the concern that I'm seeing is there's so much. People say, experts and politicians say with so much confidence, well, once we get the curve flattened, or once we get treatments, or once we move forward with a vaccine, then we can start to lift restrictions. But then we see these goal shifts. Well, we need to continue locking down because maybe flattening the curve isn't enough. Maybe we need to wait until there's a cure, which could be a year or two from now. So I think the longer that we go on with this, and the more the goals are shifted, the more unrestful people are going to become, the more concerned people are going to become about getting back out into society, about seeing normalcy again. And I think that's creating a lot of ground for uprising and for conspiracy theories to grow.
Talk about what happened when Georgia Governor Brian Kemp decided to reopen his state.
Yeah, so the governor of Georgia decided to slowly begin to reopen his state, and there were so many media reports saying, well, he's going to have blood on his hands, he's the Grim Reaper, this is going to be awful, and none of that so far has borne out. But there was all of this criticism of Governor Kemp at the beginning, and now that things are seeming to go okay in the state as they begin to reopen, their cases are not seeing a huge spike, their death toll is not seeing a huge spike. But there doesn't seem to be any sort of calibration to say, well, maybe things are not as bad as we thought they were going to be. There's not that media coverage saying, okay, things are not going horribly there. It's been kind of quiet.
You also write about some of the conspiracy theories that are making the rounds, especially on social media. Talk about that.
Yeah, so like I said at the beginning, when we keep shifting the goalposts, that becomes an issue. All of this is unknown, so I want to extend grace to politicians and to medical experts because they're learning about this just as we're learning about this. All of this is new information to everyone because we haven't had anything like this since 1917 when we had the Spanish flu pandemic. But when these goalposts keep shifting, when we hear, well, when we have a vaccine in 12 to 18 months, then we can reassess. And then we have people like Dr. Fauci saying this week, I'm not even sure if a vaccine is going to work. And also other experts saying, oh, vaccine's not going to be here for quite a while. So when they say with confidence, this is what's going to happen, and then that doesn't come to fruition, I think people begin to get concerned and they start to worry. And I think that creates the perfect ground and soil for conspiracy theories to grow because they're looking for any information they can find. I don't think it's people are just conspiracy theorists. I think they're looking for something that gives them peace and comfort, gives them understanding about what's going on. So when there's no commitment to truth and just saying, I don't know what's going on, but when the goalposts continue to shift, I think that gives an opportunity for conspiracy theories to start cropping up, and we're seeing that.
And you say truth is being compromised on both sides?
Yeah, I think, like I said, people are saying politicians are saying with confidence, well, once this happens, then we can lift restrictions. And when those things come and go and the restrictions stay in place, they're being compromised. Truth is being compromised on that end. And then also, like I said, conspiracy theories that are cropping up on the other side, I think that's an issue too. That's a compromising of truth on that side as well. So I think it's about finding as much accurate information, relying on what we do know, and trying our best on both sides of the aisle to be patient, to wait for more information, because like I said, this is a brand new issue. We are 7 weeks into this, 8 weeks into this, but again, this is a relative unknown to everybody. So I think extending grace is important here as we try to find out what exactly the truth is.
All right, Trey Goins-Phillips with faithwire.com. Thanks for your insights, Trey.
Thank you.
And you can see more important stories and issues on FaithWire tonight at 9:30 Eastern on the CBN News Channel. After the break, how has the COVID-19 outbreak affected American faith? We'll be back with that.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5 Wednesday night at 9:30.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Check out the CBN News Daily Rundown podcast each weekday with me, Caitlin Burke. Click on the show tab at cbnnews.com where you can listen and subscribe.
The COVID-19 outbreak has had an impact on Americans' view of faith. According to a new poll by the University of Chicago Divinity School and the Associated Press, 26% of Americans say that their faith has increased due to the pandemic, while 31% of Americans who are followers of Christ believe the virus is a signal from God prompting them to change. And 2% of non-believers now say that they believe in God. And that is it for this edition of CBN News Watch. Please remember you can find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel anytime or online with cbnnews.com. Also, please tell us what you think about the stories that you have seen by emailing newswatch@cbn.com, or please talk to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We hope that you'll join us next time. Have a great day.